Hi there, I'm Davey Cretin for Cretin Classics, and today this is my second panel show. We are going to talk about our favorite songs from the year 2002. Please welcome my panel today, John the Music Nut from the John the Music Nut channel, Bicycle Legs from Bicycle Legs Talks Music, and debuting on the channel today, Alexploitation from Tainted Decibels, his channel, and you know him from his myriad appearances on the Contrarians channel. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks
Thank you,
for having
David.
us.
Good to be here.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to name our top 12 tunes from 2002. That's a lot of T's. At any rate, John is going to start off with his 12, 11, and 10. Take it away, John.
Okay, thank you, Davey. So, just to let y'all know, top 12 songs, 2002, there will be a few with overtones of the tragedy that happened on September 11th, the previous year, including this song right here, one of my favorite singer-songwriters, particularly of the last 10 years. I've gotten really deep into his work. This is Steve Earle from his album Jerusalem. Song I'm going with is Ashes to Ashes, which is the opening track on the album. This song, you hear that title, you read the wordplay on here, you know exactly what Steve is singing about here. It's a very emotional track. He sings the verses kind of above a whisper, and then he whispers that chorus. It's a very emotional song, very well written and constructed. This whole album's very good. My number 12 is Ashes to Ashes by Steve Earle. My number 11 is a late entry into my 12 favorite songs because I did a show on my own channel that I've yet to release. And I had this just in my list of 20 other honorable mentions. However, I picked this album up recently, even though I heard it many, many times. And I forgot how much I really love this song. So this is the Dave Matthews Band. And this is from the album Busted Stuff. And the song I'm going with is Gray Street. Gray Street is carried by those wonderful horn lines throughout the song. We got some great solos at the ends of the verses that work very, very well. It's very memorable, very mid-tempo. It doesn't really go out of that tempo the whole time. Even the bridge kind of stays in that same vein, but the horn lines are wonderful. They really bring you in. They're a great hook on this song. And Dave's vocal delivery on here is excellent. My number 11 is Gray Street by Dave Matthews Band. And number 10, the singer-songwriter who I've been listening to her off and on for the last 20 years or so, but now I'm really getting deeper into her work since I went to see her live about a year and a half ago. This is Nico Case from her album Blacklisted, and the song I'm going with is I Wish I Was the Moon. She signed this CD. She didn't sign it directly to me.
Nice.
The CDs, some of them were signed at the merch table and some of them weren't. I Wish I Was the Moon. She's more of her style, she calls it dark folk or dark country. She has a voice that'll bring you to tears, a wonderful voice. I Wish I Was the Moon is well crafted. It sounds like a classic country song from the 1960s. Her delivery on here, the guitars on here, the rhythm, the melody are all very memorable. It's a song that is a real grower, as is this album. The whole album, I think, is very, very strong, but I Wish I Was the Moon is the one that always knocks me off my feet every time I hear it. So that is my number 10. I Wish I Was the Moon by Nico Case. Okay, there you go.
Nice. And I heard all those albums back in the day, but I haven't heard those records in about 23, 24 years. It's
There
been
you
a
go.
while. It's been a long time, been a long, lonely, 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 lonely time.
There you go.
Bicycle Legs, you're up. You're three, please, sir.
All right. My number 12 is going to be the first of a few big prog epics that I've picked for my 2002 list. This is probably the most obscure of the ones that I've picked. and this is by a band called Parallel or 90 Degrees. Now, this was the band that Andy Tillison had before he formed The Tangent. And the track I've picked, the album is called More Exotic Ways to Die. And the track I have picked is the title track. It's listed as parts 1 to 6, but funnily enough, if you look at the track listing on the back there, um, you find that there are actually 7 parts to it. So, um, Parallel or 90 Degrees are definitely more hard edged than The Tangent. Before Parallel or 90 Degrees, the first band that Andy Tillison had was called Gold, Frankincense, and Disc Drive. And they were very much considered what people would call punk prog. And Parallel or 90 Degrees is a little bit like that too. It's more prog than Gold, Frankincense, and Disc Drive were. You can see where he was going. Like each band would get a little proggier and a little proggier until you get to the Tangent, who are very much classic 70s prog. But this has a much harder edge, as I say, than the Tangent does. It's really interesting. The lyrics are great. You know, Andy Tillison has always written very earthy lyrics about, things that are going on in the world and that sort of thing. He's never been your typical, people always have this stereotyped idea about prog lyrics being about goblins and, and all that sort of thing and Tolkien and all that. You know, Led Zeppelin sang more about Tolkien than any prog band I know about. But yeah, so he has really earthy lyrics. His vocals are, a bit grittier too than your average prog band. Highly recommended if you're into your progressive rock and you don't know Parallel or 90 Degrees. Check it out. The only problem is I don't know where you're going to find it because none of their albums are on streaming as far as I can tell. So good luck finding it, but if you can, check it out. It's really, really cool. My number 11, I had to have something from this guy. Absolute silliness. Couldn't be more different from Parallel or 90 Degrees. And this is the second album by Richard Cheese and Lounge Against the Machine. And the song I have picked is he does cover versions, like lounge versions of rap and metal songs and stuff like that. And the one I've picked off here is his absolutely hilarious cover version of Baby Got Back. And it is just wonderful. It's got the wonderful lounge piano and the bass and then he comes in with a, "Oh my God, Becky, look at that butt," you know, and then he starts singing, "I like big butts and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny." And it's just absolutely a hoot. Again, Richard Cheese, he is on streaming, so check it out if you haven't. There's a lot of great songs on this particular album. He does a version of Insane in the Brain, um, Chop Suey, I Used to Love Her by Guns N' Roses, Buddy Holly by Weezer. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff on there that he does in these wonderful sort of lounge versions. And then my number 10, I have to thank one of your commenters, Davey, on the 2001 show, because they picked this song. And I was originally kicking myself until I realized, wait a second, that wasn't from 2001, it was from 2002. So it gave me the opportunity to pick this song for this show. And that is the hockey song by Warren Zevon, Hit Somebody. Love, love, love this song. Love, love, love this album too. Funnily enough, he hadn't had his diagnosis yet of mesothelioma, but the picture of him there is of him in the back of a hearse. So, um, but I mean, Hit Somebody is great. It's one of his, really funny songs. It's about a guy who gets, you know, drafted into the NHL hockey but he's not there to score goals. He's not there to, that sort of thing. He's just there to start fights with other players, so that the other guys can score goals and all that sort of thing. And then it finishes with him finally having a shot on goal, but he gets clocked at the end, and with his sort of last fading lights of life, he sees the puck go in and the red light come on. But and of course you've got David Letterman actually saying the hit somebody part. David Letterman was a huge fan of Warren Zevon. Warren Zevon once described him as the best friend his music ever had. And yeah, so it's great to hear him on that as well. So those are my 12, 11, and 10.
Nice. And we used to play Richard Cheese in the record stores way back in the day in 2002. And he was on Olio Records, Ooglio or something
Mhm.
in the States. Oh, I think they pronounced it Olio, but it looked like Uglio. But whatever. Okay, Alex, you're up with your 12, 11, and 10, sir.
All right, and I'm going to mirror something that John said. There are some serious songs on my list. When I get to the top, very, very serious. I'm not going to start off that way. And I'm glad to see the diversity so far because if anybody see me on other shows, my tastes run from literally A to Z. So, uh, number 12 is a song called Shooting Star off of an album called Holly Weird by Poison.
Wow.
Uh, so this is their sixth and final, so far, album of original material and their first on their own label, which was Cyanide Music. Um, it's an underrated album if you're a Poison fan. Those of us that admit we're Poison fans. Uh, it is the first album of the original lineup since Flesh and Blood from 1990, and it's exactly what you want out of Poison. It sounds like 1980s glam, and that's why I like Poison. So this was actually released as a single, third and final single from this album, and this is your traditional Poison of a big chorus and a great CC guitar solo. This is a tale of a small town girl looking for fortune and fame in Hollywood. And you could say, well, didn't we have Fallen Angel? And I'll say, yes. But that was kind of a tale that ended in tragedy. And this is one that's more kind of hope and promise. So there's, kind of the theme of power in will and determination. And it can, that the dream will come true. So Poison was never meant to change the world, right? We were just supposed to have fun with Poison. And to me, this is a fun record, and that's my number 12. So number 11, I don't know if anyone's going to know this band. They were a regional band here. I'm in Pennsylvania. They are legends from Baltimore, Maryland, and that is Mary Prankster. And that is Mary, not Mary, Merry. Mary Prankster. To Tell Your Friends is the album, and At Arm's Length is the song. And so Mary Prankster was kind of indie pop, punk, pop, uh, catchy tunes, but all with an edge and kind of a wry and witty sense of humor. I loved her from the first time that I saw her. Very cool tone to her voice. So she was sort of around in the late 90s to the early 2000s, put out 3 albums, and then came back in 2019 and did one more. This song is very interesting. It kind of captures the essence of a relationship that has more than run its course, right? So there's lyrics that go, Your presence meant more than I'd anticipated, took my breath away, so I asphyxiated. Forgive me, but I just don't think I have that kind of strength. And then she goes on to sing, that she is better having them at 100 miles away, 1,000 miles away, 1,000,000 miles away, rather than having them at arm's length. So you can kind of get a real sense of pain and irony to her vocals. I have, again, loved this band. They do have much of their catalog on Spotify. So if that sounds intriguing to you, check out Mary, Mary, Prankster. And then number 10, this is a band, I'm going to say this multiple times too, criminally underrated, underappreciated, and unknown in the United States. This is Primal Scream. So the song off of this album is Evil Heat, or I should say the album is Evil Heat. That's their seventh album. And in the UK, a pretty big band. It got to number 9 in the US. it does nothing. So who are they? They're a Scottish rock band. They formed in '82. The mainstay is Bobby Gillespie, who was actually a drummer in Jesus and Mary Chain. He leaves that band and puts all his efforts into this band. They do a little bit of everything: alt rock, indie, pop, garage, electronica, neo psych, house, soul. They've been compared, depending on what album it is, from the Rolling Stones to Prodigy. Uh, really across the map. On this album, this is the heavy kind of electronic synth punk electro clash album. There's some alt rock, there's some alt dance. Um, so Rise is the song. I love this. It's loud, it's blistering, it's in your face. It's a kind of electronic rave up. It's an anthem. It has a shout along chorus. Rise. It's about modern capitalism and militarism. I have so much trouble with that word. It's noisy. It's catchy. This is a band that you really need to kind of absorb their entire catalog to understand who they are. This song, though, represents this particular album. They returned in 2024, finally, after an 8-year break, and put out an album that switched things up totally. But this album is a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned, and that takes care of my first three.
Nice. And Alex, wasn't their biggest American hit Rocks Off or Get Your
Yeah,
Rocks Off?
off of Screamadelica, and that was their kind of Stonesy, bluesy, Brit pop, 60s rock. Yeah, that was early on in their career, and I'm telling you, they went off in 18 different directions after that.
Because I remember that album. That
Yeah,
album did okay back in the day. I think late
that a little bit of buzz in
91.
the States. I think nine. That sounds about right. Yeah, a little bit of buzz, MTV, and then quickly disappeared from our audience anyway.
Exactly. They're a cult band in the States,
Cult band.
unfortunately, like a lot of bands we're going to talk about. John, had you heard the band from Pennsylvania at all? Did you not?
I never heard of Mary Prankster. That one I didn't know. I
Okay.
thought you were going somewhere else.
No, since you
Hmm.
guys are from the same state, I figured maybe you knew them.
I didn't
How
know.
close are you to Baltimore? Because I'm a half an hour away, and that's she always came up here to play.
Okay, I'm up north. I'm about 3 hours, 15 minutes from Baltimore.
Okay, that's
I'm
a
a
different
bit,
story then. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know that she really traveled that direction to play that often. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'm north. I'm closer to Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to do my 12, 11, and 10 now. I'm going to start off with the longest song, but a little bit of a story before I get to it. Few years back, oh, probably 4 or 5 years back, during the pandemic, everyone was inside watching YouTube, and I started watching a channel with a guy I sort of knew from when I worked in the record stores. His name is Jack Toledano, and he has his own YouTube channel, All or Nada, according to Jack. College buddies with Pete Pardo from Sea of Tranquility. He's been on the channel. I started watching Jack's channel, started making comments on all his videos, and he said, "Why don't you come on? You're a Mets fan. I'm a Mets fan. We'll do a Mets show." My first show on YouTube, not counting the reality TV show I was on. And good luck to anyone who could find that, but let's not talk about that. Getting back to it, I went on Jack's channel, my first appearance, talking about the Mets. After that show ended, he said, "Do you know this prog metal band, this power metal band? They started in the 90s." I said, "Oh, I used to listen to their music." So my number 12 choice, the longest song on my list, a hair over 24 minutes, the band Symphony X. And yes, Jack and I ranked their catalog on All or Nada, according to Jack, about 4 years back, I think, 3 or 4 years back. It's been a while. So this is the album, The Odyssey from 2002. I'm going with the title track, The Odyssey. This is an epic song. The playing is great from every band member on here. There's acoustic guitar, electric guitar, and of course, the band leader does this symphonic keyboard work that sounds like orchestration, but it's all done on a keyboard. Michael Pinella's keyboards are great. Michael Romeo, that's the guitar player who does the keyboard orchestrations. He writes the bulk of the music. You got the great on drums, Jason Rulo. On this album, Michael LaPond on bass. I didn't write anything down, so I'm going by memory. And who did I leave out? The singer. Of course, it's Russell Allen, isn't it? Russell Allen, the singer. So this is a great prog metal band, 24-minute epic. Starts out mellow and symphonic. You get the highs, you get the lows, everywhere in between. My number 12, The Odyssey by Symphony X. Moving on to my number 11, I think I will call this alt progressive, well, alt hard rock. Alt hard rock. This is a band that started out on an indie label. They got to a major label. This song is a hair under 5 minutes. And it's a power trio playing on this song, if memory serves. The album, Songs from the Deaf. The band, Queens of the Stone Age. I'm going with the big hit, No One Knows. Josh Homme, guitar and vocals. I think he sings this one. Nick Oliveri from the Dwarves on bass. And the infamous Dave Grohl on drums. So you get a power trio doing this upbeat, powerful, heavy rock song. The bass is great. The drums are great. The riffing on the guitar, the vocals. I really like the bass line on this song. So that's my number 11, No One Knows from Queens of the Stone Age. My number 10, oh, I'm going to one of my favorite bands of all time. But this album does not sound great because in the late 90s, early 2000s, CDs were what they call brick walled, where the sound quality, everything is just so loud, it just comes at you in this big cacophony, I guess is the good word to use. They redid this album, they remixed it. It sounds a little better, but I'm going with the original version. That's the one I fell in love with. This band was back in 2002 with an album called Vapor Trails. This is Rush. Side one, song one, track one. Oh, there it is. There's the original. That's the one I'm talking about. The song is One Little Victory. The single came out in March, and I think the album came out in May. So almost 2 months before we got our first taste of Rush. They were on hiatus because Neil Peart unfortunately had some tragedies in his life. This was the comeback album, and it starts out with this furious drum fury from Neil Peart. You get Alex back with the heavy riffing guitar, Geddy with the high pitched vocals on here, and it's a powerful song. And I remember the tour. I think this song opened up the second set. They had the screens with the dragons on them. They had the big flash pot explosions, and it opened up set two in fine style, if memory serves. Great live track. Love the song. It's my favorite song from this album. It's hard to listen to, but it's worth listening to. And I maybe try the remix. It's a little less harsh on your ears. So that is my number 10, One Little Victory from Rush. No One Knows, Queens of the Stone Age 11. The Odyssey, Symphony X at 12. Back over to you, John.
More on that later. My number 9 is a band that I like to say sounds like Rush if they became a jam band. And for my money, they're one of the best live bands out there. This is Humphreys McGee from their album Local Band Does Okay. Going with the song Hurt Birdbath. Now, at this point in their career, with this album and then 2004's Anchor Drops, they were really a jam band. They became better songwriters, they thought, from Safety and Numbers forward. Hurt Birdbath, very, very progressive, great stop-start rhythms, very, very memorable melody on here before they go into the solo. And the solo is very, very jazzy. They go into all these different directions. But it's the riff on the song that really, really carries the way throughout the song. It's very, very strong, as is this album. My number 10 is Humphreys McGee with Hurt Birdbath. My number 9 is, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, my number 8, my bad. My number 8 is a singer-songwriter that has been in some of my previous 10 favorite song lists. And this is Alanis Morissette from her album Under Rug Swept. I'm going with the single Hands Clean. Hands Clean was a very memorable track. We don't get to hear it much anymore because when we think of Alanis Morissette, we're always thinking of those gigantic hits from Jagged Little Pill, but this is a wonderful song. It's got a very strong build in it. It starts out acoustic and it just builds through the pre-chorus, and then it gets really fiery and loud in the chorus, and it's very, very wonderful. Alanis's vocal delivery on here is strong, as is that vocal melody. There's a wonderful bridge on it. Very strong track. I thought this should have been a bigger single than it was, but this is my number 8, Alanis Morissette with Hands Clean from the album Under Rug Swept. Okay. My number 7, speaking of songs with 9/11 overtones, this is a singer-songwriter. It's been around over 50 years, and he has millions of fans the world over, and you all know who I'm probably talking about. I'm talking about Bruce Springsteen, and I'm going with the title track from his album, The Rising, which is a call to arms, a triumphant song with a strong build in it. It's very memorable. Excellent chorus. The guitar solos on here, wonderful. It's got a lot of ebb and flow to it. A lot of times you just have Bruce just playing his guitar and then the band kicking in. But the way this is recorded, the presentation is very, very strong. Good album. This is my number 7, Bruce Springsteen with The Rising. Okay, there you go.
Nice. And Bruce and Alanis were on my larger list, but they didn't make it. So I'm glad
I was going to say more on that later.
I figured.
All right.
I figured. Bicycle Legs, over to you, sir.
All right. My number 9, this band, if they released a record in any of the years that we're going to cover, they're going to feature because they're one of my favorite bands of all time. This was a different album for them, though, because it was the first album that they ever recorded and released that was specifically aimed at children. And the album is No by They Might Be Giants. And for any of your viewers, Davey, who have children and are looking for something that their kids will love, but that won't drive them completely nuts, this is a great album, because this album, the adults can enjoy it just as much as the kids. The lyrics might be aimed at the children, but the music doesn't talk down to them. The music is every bit as good as anything else on any other They Might Be Giants album. And the song I have picked is called 4 of 2. And it sounds like a typical They Might Be Giants song with the accordion and the whole bit. And the lyric is rather witty. I think it would go over a lot of kids' heads. But it's about this guy who's agreed to meet this girl for a date. And he's going to tell her he's in love with her and all this sort of thing. And he's waiting for her under this clock. And the clock says it's 4 minutes to 2. But the clock has stopped. So he still thinks that he's 4 minutes early for this date. And time just keeps going on and on and on, and days and weeks and years pass. And he's still waiting for her under this clock. At the end, by the end, he's got this long white beard and there's flying cars and gigantic metal bugs. And he's still waiting for her, still thinking that she's not late because the clock still says 4 of 2. So absolutely wonderful album. As I say, the adults can enjoy it just as much as the kids. That's No by They Might Be Giants, and the song is 4 of 2. At number 8, this is an album that only just recently got re-released by this band. They had re-released most of the rest of their catalogue over the years, but had resisted putting this one out because the lead guy wasn't a big fan of this album. I don't know why, because I think it's a great album, but it got re-released just in the last couple of years, and that is Bard by Big Big Train, and the song I have picked is the opening track, The Last English King. And it's got that typical Big Big Train sound. This is before David Longdon had joined the band. It was almost everything here was written by Greg Sporton, these days he's the bass player in the band. In this day and age, he was the guitar player. And, The Last English King is about King Harold, who was, famously, he was the one who lost the Battle of Hastings against William the Conqueror. And so they're describing him as the last English king. After that, you had all the Norman kings and the, European kings and all that sort of thing. So, but it's got that wonderful, stately, big, big train sound to it. Maybe it's not as well produced as some of the later stuff because they were working on more of a shoestring budget, but you still had Rob Aubrey, he was, twiddling the knobs for them when they were doing the recordings. So it still sounds pretty good, but they definitely needed a better vocalist. They got that with David Longdon. Unfortunately, we don't have David anymore. He sadly passed away a few years ago. But still a really good album, well worth checking out. Bard and the song The Last English King. There are a couple of big epics on this album, and I like them too, but I really like The Last English King as my favorite song on the album. But speaking of epics, my number 7 is probably the longest song that any of us are going to be talking about today. Um, it's 42 minutes long, and it is the title track from this album here, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence by Dream Theater. To me, this is right in the middle of what I think is the classic Dream Theater period. Um, you know, this album, Train of Thought, Octavarium, that's my sweet spot for Dream Theater. Also Scenes of Memory. But yeah, the title track takes up all of disc 2. It's 42 minutes long. It's divided into 8 parts, but there are 6 specific topics that they're singing about. And the inner turbulence they're talking about is, well, it's basically sort of mental illnesses, except for one of them, which is about autism, which is not a mental illness. That's a developmental disorder. But still, the lyrics are written by John Petrucci and Mike Portnoy. They take it about half and half each. They each write one of the three of the 6 inner turbulences. And I find it a magisterial work. It starts off with this big orchestral overture, again, all played on keyboards. And, and then you get these different parts, and like some of it's proggy, some of it almost sounds like Yes, some of it is crunching and metal. And, the lyrics are very heartfelt and very sensitive to the topics at hand, which I really appreciate as somebody who has both dealt with mental illness in the past and also has dealt with a lot of people who've had mental illness. Um, I really appreciate that song, and musically, it's one of the very, very best things this band ever did. So that is my number 9, 4 of 2 by They Might Be Giants, number 8, The Last English King by Big Big Train, and number 7, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence by Dream Theater.
Nice. Good picks. I have a different song from one of those records coming up. We'll have to see which one it is. On that Dream Theater tour, I saw them front row at the Beacon Theater in New York City. They did all of that song, all of disc 2 from start to finish. I think that was the second set. And the encore set, they came out and did all of Master of Puppets, start to finish, with the second guitar part being handled by Jordan Rudess on the keyboards. So it was very cool. And James Labrie, the singer, almost hit me in the face with his mic stand. He's swinging his mic stand around. And I was front row. So awesome show. Love that album. Excellent picks. Alex, over to you.
All right, so we're going to start my next set with yet another band from the UK that is at best a cult band over here. So they formed in England in 96, and they combined indie, neo-psych, folk, jangle pop, and more. This is the song Goodbye. It's off their self-titled debut, and that is The Coral, a band I absolutely love and have since I got that album when it first came out. So time for some Davy Cretan stats. See, I went to Cretan University, right? So in the UK, it gets to number 21. That is the album. In the US, it gets all the way up to 189. So this is what I'm talking about. And this, I Well, actually, I think I got that backwards. The song got to 21 in the UK. The album got to 5 in the UK, but only 189 in the US. So the singer-songwriter is James Skelly. I love his voice. It's quite different. This song starts off with a very cool riff. The percussion kicks in, some tambourine. It's got a great sound going on. To me, it's a little bit all those other styles I mentioned, but also harkening back to Blue Eyed Soul. I get that from James Kelly's voice. So anyway, song has a great breakdown, kind of some frantic drumming, keyboards in the background, distorted guitar solo. It's kind of just got this swirling, trippy sound, and then it kind of goes back to that opening riff and finishes things off. So very 60s sounding. They were put into that whole Britpop movement, but I think they're way more than that. They were had different sound and much more complex, and they evolved into various things. So they have a dozen studio albums. They have miscellaneous solo projects. A band that I highly, highly recommend. Sticking with the UK, one of my favorite singers of all time, one of my favorite voices of all time, and that is Richard Ashcroft, once of the Verve. And this is the advanced copy. So this is Human Conditions. If you don't recognize that cover, it's not the standard cover that you saw in the store. So this is the second solo album from him. The song is the opening track, Check the Meaning. This was the first single released in the UK, gets to number 11. Obviously, nothing in the States, but it does go top 20 in Ireland, in Italy, and almost top 20, gets to 21 in Canada. So this guy's voice is just amazing. You know, it sort of it makes me swoon. You know, did I say that out loud, gentlemen? But it does. Beautiful. And so this is the longest song on the album. It's 8 minutes and 4 seconds. It gives him time to do what he does. He wrote, produced, played guitar and bass on this track. It is a lush song. There is the London Session Orchestra is on this, so it kind of has a bittersweet symphony. If you remember that Verve track, has that kind of feel to it. It's very interesting lyrically. It's about confronting the overwhelming confusion of modern existence and the desperate search for spiritual clarity amid chaos. It's equal parts reflection and a sermon. I love the very simple but poignant line. Can you hear what I'm saying? Got my mind meditating on love. A beautiful song, a wonderful singer. So my number 8. And now for something completely different, as they would say on Monty Python. This is the self-titled album of this band. The song I'm going with is Bother, and that band is Stone Sour. And Stone Sour obviously is Corey Taylor, who this was his original band. He would go on to front Slipknot, and then he would bounce back and forth between these two groups. This was the second single off of this album. Billboard 100, it got to 56, but on the mainstream and on the rock and metal charts, it gets to number 2, and it does go gold. So this was a big hit for them and sort of the coming out of this band. It originally was on the Spider-Man soundtrack as a Corey solo track, and then it comes out on this album as a band track. And also Jim Root was in the band, who was also in Slipknot. So to me, Stone Sour was, that kind of hard rock, alt rock, metal versus what Slipknot was in their new metal, or whatever you want to call Slipknot, with all-encompassing sound as well. But this shows Corey Taylor and the powerful voice that he has. I don't think he gets enough credit for that as a singer. Slipknot has a lot of grunts and growls and screams, but Stone Sour kind of infiltrated Slipknot sound later on, not vice versa. And this was sort of it, right? If you don't have Bother, you don't get to a song like Snuff that will come down the road for Slipknot. It's introspective, it's moody. He lets his emotions flow. It's sort of about his move back to Iowa from Colorado and his pursuit of moving forward with his music career. Kind of themes of, do you give up or do you hold on? His lyrics are always open to interpretation, so you could take it to mean whatever you wanted, really, in this song. But it's a heartfelt song for him, coming from that place. Band that I wish would do more. 2020, they kind of went on indefinite hiatus, but I love what they do. So that's my next round of three.
Nice. And I think they did that song on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Does
Could
anyone
be.
remember that?
I
I
don't
think
remember that.
they were on there once, and it had to be for that song because that was their big commercial,
Yeah.
so to speak, almost crossover type hit because it almost made the top 40. Because I remember them on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. My musical guest tonight is a band called Stone Sour. But at any rate, that's neither here nor there. Okay, another impression that I do. My number nine, I am going for the first time. This genre actually has made my list. I'm going to the world of hip hop. No, not the Beastie Boys, but from Long Island, New York. Very indie band, and this record came out on an indie label in 2002. The all-female trio called Northern State. Their record is called Dying in Stereo, almost a 4-minute track. You get three Long Island girls singing this. The song is called Trinity. And this whole album, this 8-song album, Dying in Stereo, it's like listening to the Beastie Boys with three ladies singing it. They're crude, they're dirty, yet they're funny. And I love this album. I had a coworker named Josh who was in love with one of the girls in the band. He played them all the time, and it seeped into my psyche. Later on, I'll also mention another hip hop act, but Northern State, named after the Northern State Parkway, which I used to drive to work to go to the record stores all the time on Long Island. The song Trinity, that's my number nine. Moving on to number eight, the debut album from a supergroup. This was one dude from one big band in the 90s, and then three-quarters of another band. I think you guys know who I'm talking about. Audio Slave's debut album. It's a little long, it's late 90s, early 2000s. CDs were too long. This is an hour or so, little over an hour. Maybe it's overly long. There are so many good songs on this album. Which do you pick? The voice of Chris Cornell, the guitar playing of Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine. You got the rhythm section from Rage Against the Machine. The song I ended up picking, sort of a ballad, self-titled debut album here. I picked just under 5 minutes, Like a Stone. It's very melodic. Chris Cornell's voice is great on it. And then you get that bizarre guitar solo from Tom Morello, where he's just twiddling his knobs, and it almost sounds like he's scratching on the turntable, a la Rage Against the Machine. And it's just such a cool, unique solo. That's one of the reasons I chose this song. Great song, Like a Stone, Audio Slave self-titled debut album. And my number seven, if you guys want to hold it up, from Dream Theater's 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. I picked a different song. There it is. Thanks for the props, gentlemen. I'm going with the 9.5 minute song on disc one, Misunderstood. It starts out mellow. You get some really cool, bizarre sounding keyboards from Jordan Rudess throughout this song. It's got this great anthemic chorus where James LaBrie just sings to the heaven, Misunderstood. Love singing along with it. Not that I could hit the vocals that James LaBrie hits, but love singing this song. Misunderstood is my favorite. And Daniel, the title track, was a close second. So that is my number seven, Misunderstood by Dream Theater, Like a Stone, Audio Slave at 8, and Trinity by Northern State. And their stuff is on the streaming services. So if you like hip hop, if you like to hear the ladies sing hip hop, check it out, or rap. Trinity by Northern State. Back over to you, John.
And just quickly, more on that later, Davey.
Nice.
There you go. All right. Our first repeat song today is One Little Victory by Rush. Like you, Davey, I saw them on this tour. The opening night of the tour was at Montage Mountain just outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania. And that was the second time I'd seen them. Yes, they did open set two with this track. And I can't really add much more to what you said before. I mean, Neil went through 2 tragedies, took a little time off, and he came back invigorated with his songwriting on this album. And yes, the album's recorded too loud. I did not like this album when it came out. I borrowed my friend's, and it took me about another year or so before I bought it. And I grew to get accustomed to the loud sound of it. I think there's a lot of great songs on this album, but One Little Victory is a call to arms and was the first single that was released to album oriented rock radio as well. So that's my number 6. And I got like 5 killer guitar players in my last 6 picks. Of course, we have Alex Lifeson. If you're into blues, you may know this guitar player. This is Coco Montoya from his album Can't Look Back. Song I'm going with is Trip, Stumble, and Fall. Now, Coco Montoya spent a lot of years with John Mayall's Blues Breakers. A lot of great blues guitar players cut their teeth in that band. His solo material, he's got a lot of albums, has more of an soulful R&B sound to it than it does a blues sound, although he can play the blues very, very well. This song, Trip, Stumble, and Fall, is more hard-hitting. It's more like blues rock. It's more like something you would have heard on an album-oriented rock radio station like Rock 107 back in the day. But it's very hard-hitting. It's great vocal performance here. It's very, very stirring, very emotional, excellent chorus. Coco's guitar lines on here are excellent. Very strong album. This is my favorite song off the album. This is my number 5, Trip, Stumble, and Fall by Coco Montoya. Number 4, a wonderful guitar player that's more known for what he says now. He's become more Brandon Band these days. And this album, a lot of this album sounds recycled from his earlier stuff, although it's a heavier album. This is Uncle Ted Nugent from his album Crave Man, which is right here. And I'm going with the quasi-title song called Crave, which is a call to arms. When he's not writing goofy lyrics and he's just sticking with songs about perseverance, he kills. And this is a wicked song. The riff on here, you could sing. It is great. I love the delivery. I love the pre-chorus. The riff carries the chorus as well. It's just a call to arms that really, really rocks. And I love the outro. It's a very long outro while he's soloing. And then they play a little bit of Working Hard, Playing Hard during the outro as well, which is really, really cool. This is my number 5. Or I'm sorry, my number 4. And that is Crave by Ted Nugent. Okay, there we go.
And the only time I saw Uncle Ted live was about a decade before with Damn Yankees at Jones Beach, where I've seen Rush plenty of times. And I saw Rush at Jones Beach on the Vapor Trails tour. Bicycle Legs, over to you, sir.
All right. My number 6 comes from a wonderful album, but it's a concept album, so it was really hard to choose a single song off this because it kind of flows into one big whole piece. And it's the last album this band did with their legendary leader, Neil Morse. I'm talking about Snow by Spock's Beard. Really hard to pick a song off this, but the one I ended up going with is maybe not one of the obvious songs. It's the song Solitary Soul. And the reason I picked this song is because it really moves me. It's a really delicate song. It's a slow song, but it's just so heartfelt. And you get beautiful vocals from Neil on it. You get wonderful harmonies from his brother Alan Morse on it. And then you get this gorgeous falsetto vocal from Nick DiVigilio on part of it as well. So you have all these great vocals. You know, one thing about Spock's Beard, especially back in the day, was you had so many great vocalists in that band and they could do these wonderful multi-part harmonies and all that sort of thing. You know, it was because of them that I discovered the band Gentle Giant. I've told that story a number of times before. But yeah, I mean, this whole album is brilliant. It's one of my favorites by them. But yeah, I ended up going with Solitary Soul as my number 6 because I just love that song. It's so beautiful. At number 5, I've picked a song from what was unfortunately for this artist a posthumous album. Came out the year after he died. The album is Brainwashed by George Harrison. And the song I picked is the opening track called Any Road. And it's just it's got all the sort of hallmarks of a great George Harrison song. It's got a bit of ukulele on it because he loved his ukulele. It's got that wonderful slide guitar playing that he was so famous for. It's got a beautiful vocal from him, and the lyric is, it's got that kind of spiritual side to it that, again, I think a lot of the best George Harrison songs had. The whole sort of punchline, as it were, in the chorus of this song is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And I love that about it. Beautiful album. So sad that this would be the last thing that we'd hear from him and that it would, be released the year after his untimely death. He was only 58 years old when we lost him. Way, way too young. And then my number four, I had to have something Australian. If I have the opportunity, I always like to pick something Australian. And this band, I feel like this album was a real change of pace for them and a real step up into some real musicality. The band is Silverchair and the album is Diorama. And, they started off as this sort of, grunge band. They were sort of imitating the grunge bands and they were only teenagers at the time. By the time they got to this, which is their fourth album, they had gone into this really gorgeous, sophisticated Baroque pop. And, some of the strings on this are arranged by Van Dyke Parks. And the song I've picked is the song called The Greatest View, which has strings on it, but the strings on this one are not actually arranged by Van Dyke Parks. They're arranged by the lead singer, Daniel Johns. And they're a gorgeous string chart. But the song is sophisticated. Melodically, it's brilliant. Lyrically, it's very insightful. And they were still not 23 years old by the time they made this album. So, just incredible to think of this um, depth and sophistication they were coming up with by the time this album came out. Um, and to me, that's the Silverchair I love. I'm not so much into the sort of grungy stuff, although that's fine for what it is. But when they got really sophisticated and all that sort of thing, that's where I really think they shine. So that's my number six was Solitary Soul by Spock's Beard. Number five, Any Road by George Harrison. And number four, The Greatest View by Silverchair.
Nice. Silverchair. Wow. Haven't heard them in years. And more on Spock's Beard later. Over to you, Alex.
Okay, so my next band, formed in 1990 after this singer-songwriter's previous band, which was a big college radio band, broke up. So he gets with a childhood friend of his and forms his new band. The previous band was Camper Van Beethoven, and the new band is Cracker. And the song is One Fine Day off of Forever, which is their fifth album. And they are rock and country and blues and folk and more. A band that I absolutely love. And many of us will know a couple of their hits, but don't realize how much they have out and how great all of those albums are, start to finish. And this is no exception. So this is sort of, to me, the height of the writing powers of David Lowery and his childhood friend, Johnny Hickman. This is a somber, gospel-tinged 7-minute epic. It kind of, invites the lost and broken into a moment of reckoning and renewal. It has great B3, and I'm a sucker for B3 organ. Margaret White does background vocals, fantastic. And David, just the way he delivers these vocals in this somber and reflective way. A lyric I like is, he says, "So all you sinners come out and all you drunkards crawl out. Come into the light of one fine day." It's just a standout on a superb album, way underappreciated band, and they're from the U.S., even in the U.S. And of course, he's done great solo stuff as well. So that's number six. Now, again, for something completely different. This is this artist's fourth album. Started out as a bubblegum pop princess and turned into a powerhouse vocalist, and that would be none other than Christina Aguilera. So this is the song Dirty off of this album Stripped, which debuted at number 2. 5 times platinum in the States, 12 times platinum worldwide. And this is where her ex Tina persona debuts, and she took creative control, was very hands-on this whole process, writing and arranging and producing and so forth. This was the first single that was released, and it didn't come out of the gate big. It only got to number 48 on the Billboard 100. It was her first not to enter the top 20 in her career. But again, as a student of Cretin University, I can tell you that it did go number 1 in the UK, in Scotland, in Nicaragua, in Ireland, and in the hotbed of pop music, Croatia. And I'm not joking. That all happened. So while the single wasn't that big on the charts, it was obviously a video that was heavy in rotation, and that may or may not have something to do with how much I like the song. We'll leave it at that if you've ever seen the video. But this definitely did. She shed her bubblegum pop. And this has Redman rapping on this. And this was something that was commonplace, right? Mixing, it still is, mixing rap in with soul or R&B. And a lot of times it doesn't always work and it's disjointed. This, I think, is great. I love Redman. I love his flow. And it probably works so well because the basis of this song was a song that he did called Let's Get Dirty from 2001. So everything lined up to really work on this. Her vocals are powerful. They're gritty. There's no crazy highs and lows on this. There's not a lot of runs. It's the title says it all. It's just a cool song. And I know Beautiful was on this. There's other tracks that are a fighter. Great songs. I tend to like this. So number 4, another artist that you don't hear a lot about, and that is Dan Byrne, Bern. And so he is a singer-songwriter. He's got over 20 albums. He's written over 1,000 songs. He's toured with The Who and Roger Daltrey. He did extensive work on Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, if you ever saw that movie. This is off of his 2000 EP, and the song is called Jail. And so he's been compared to Dylan and Guthrie and Bruce, Elvis Costello a little bit. He's got kind of all of those traits mixed in with him. This is very much a Dylan-esque song. So it's about a person traveling from Colorado to Texas. They get pulled over. The cop smells some marijuana. And so they lock him up because this is such a horrendous thing to have, right? Weed. And so he states his case to the judge. And his lyrics are very witty, and I just love everything he does. But in this song, he says, Your Honor, think of Johnny Cash and Elvis and Hank Williams too. Whatever it took to go get those songs those good old boys would do. If it's illegal, then throw out Blonde on Blonde and every Beatles song since Hard Day's Night. Go ahead and burn Walt Whitman, unpaint Starry Night. So just a cool cat. And the story continues from there. I'll let you seek the song out if you want. And I'm not going to show the EP cover or mention the title because there's something in it that could offend people, but it shouldn't because it's anti, not pro. But I will show this. And he signed that. And this is this label, Least of All. At one point when they were around, they were doing live session recordings. So they had this modified antique record cutting lathe from the 1950s that they would cut one-off singles of. And because this was one of my favorite songs, I commissioned him to record this. So this is a one of one in the world single of this song that I love, and I've seen him a million times. So again, Dan Byrne, Bern. Seek him out if you don't know him. And that's my 3, right? That's my next 3.
Yeah, nice. Dan Byrne, my coworker, used to play him all the time at the record
Oh
store.
yeah, cool.
And I think John knows who it is. It's Georgie Boy that I'm talking about. So I have heard some Dan Byrne stuff, and he is a great, funny songwriter. And I totally missed out on Christina Aguilera's Beautiful. That's the song that I love from that album. So that is a good Dark Horse pick. And Dark Horse harkens back to Daniel's pick of George Harrison. So there we go. Excellent picks, everyone, so far. My number six comes from a singer-songwriter who started out in the late 80s, early 90s. She played with some very cool people back in the day. She has guest background vocalists on this song from the 90s, Liz Phair. The record is Come On, Come On. I'm talking about Sheryl Crow with the big hit single, Soak Up the Sun. This is pure pop perfection to me. Love this song. It's a little under 5 minutes. It's catchy. It's got that great uplifting chorus. You hear Sheryl, you hear Liz. So Sheryl Crow coming in at number six, Soak Up the Sun on my list. My
I
number
almost had
five,
Steve McQueen off of that. I love both. I love both of those songs.
that's another good song. I think they're both on the Greatest Hits. She has a great Greatest
Mm.
Hits album. No bad songs on that Greatest Hits. Moving on to my number five, I'm going to go back to one of my favorite progressive rock, progressive metal bands. I've mentioned them before. They released an album in 2002 called Critical Mass. The band is Threshold. I'm going with the first song called Phenomenon. These guys are they're not as crazy with the solos, the virtuistic solos like Dream Theater. They're more like Queensryche. It's more catchy. It's riff rock. They got a great guitar player named Carl Groom, and just the riffing in the song is great. This album features the late vocalist Andrew Mac McDermott. Great voice. Love these catchy choruses. That's the thing about Threshold. Their choruses are catchier than Dream Theater, and their songs are more concise, usually around the 5 minute mark. They rarely have really long songs. When they do, they go for it. There's the title track here is 13 minutes long. I almost chose that one, but instead I went with the 5 minute riff rock of Phenomenon by the band Threshold. So check it out if you haven't checked out Threshold, one of my favorites. We did an album ranking show over on Scott Lade's The Prog Corner. Check it out from about a year ago. And my number four, I'm going with one of my inspirations, I'll say. Because back in the day, I don't know who knows this. Some of you guys might know this. Some of the people out there might know this. I played the part of Joey Ramone in a Ramones tribute band for over a decade. And it started in the early 2000s, went till about 2012. So I am going with Joey Ramone's posthumous debut solo album called Don't Worry About Me, track one, side one, 2 minute and 24-second cover of Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World. And the way Joey sings it is great. It's got riffing guitars on it from Daniel Ray. The whole album's really good. I almost chose another song, but I went with this cover instead. It's just so buoyant and upbeat and happy. And even though he was very sick, he made this album. Really good album, no bad tracks, great guitar playing throughout. And there is this octave jump that he does at the end of the song. And he only did it on a Ramones B-side. I won't mention the title. Some people might get offended by the title. I won't mention that B-side. It's a cover of a 60s pop song where Joey Ramone did an octave leap. And I, in the Ramones tribute band, couldn't do it. So I went to a vocal coach. And I actually had professional vocal lessons to make my voice better back in the day so I could do it. And when Joey does that at the end of the song, What a Wonderful World, and he does the octave jump, great, amazing song. Joey Ramone, What a Wonderful World, my number four. Phenomenon by Threshold 5, and Soak Up the Sun at number six. We have three left, the top three. Over to you, John.
Okay, thank you. All right. This band's been around since 1969. They stole the show at Woodstock. You probably already know what I'm talking about. And they will be playing this summer. They'll be touring this summer with the Doobie Brothers. I have my ticket. This is Santana. And I'm going with the opening single off the Shaman album. It's Santana with Michelle Branch with The Game of Love. You may recognize this rhythm in this song. The guys in the New Radicals, I believe, wrote this song, and this song sounds a lot like You Get What You Give, their big hit. This song I think is magnificent, and I love the song structure. Michelle shines like the sun on here. Carlos Santana's guitar playing on here is wonderful. The solo is excellent. And the chorus is very, very catchy. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's one of the best choruses, I think, of 2002. And getting to the seeing him on the tour, I saw Santana on the Shaman tour at Montage Mountain, but it would have been in 2003. They were still touring Shaman. Yet this is the second of Santana's 3 albums where it's Santana and a whole bunch of guest stars. And I think the quality albums went down with each release. Supernatural's pretty good. Shaman's okay. All That I Am, not so good. But my number 3 is Game of Love by Santana, Michelle Branch. My number 2 is a band that during this time they were considered one of the biggest bands in the world. I don't know if they've put out an album lately or maybe just flown under my radar. And I really like this band's early work because I think it was very organic. Later on, they started making guitar songs that sounded too poppy and albums that sounded like they could be made with a computer. But early on, I thought Coldplay was a great band. And this is from A Rush of Blood to the Head, their second album. But I'm not going with any of the singles off this album. I'm going with the last track called Amsterdam, which starts as a piano ballad. But when you listen to this song, it's like a piano ballad written for stadiums because it's very triumphant, and Chris Martin's voice on here, that falsetto, it works very well in this song. Eventually, the whole band kicks in, and that's when I think it really becomes this stadium anthem that it is. So this is a wonderful song. I think it last track on a very strong album from 2002. This is my number 2, Coldplay with Amsterdam. Okay, my number 1, and for the third appearance this evening, we have a song off of 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. And like you, Daniel, this is my sweet spot. Those same albums are they're my dream theater too. But I'm going with The Glass Prison.
Ah.
A 14-minute tour de force about addiction. And it is a very emotional track. There are so many hooks in this song. It's amazing. You don't hear that said about too many prog rock songs. I mean, Carry On Wayward Son, okay. Roundabout, yes. I think this has hooks on that level, but this is a 14-minute track. I don't think there's a second wasted on it. It is in 3 different movements. It is very exciting, very emotional. James shines like the sun vocally on here. The riffs are wonderful. There are a lot of emotions in this song. A feeling of victory at the end. And this is a song that I have loved since I bought this album as a new release in 2002. So this is my number 1, The Glass Prison by Dream Theater. There you go.
Nice. So the same album, and 3 of us picked 3 different songs. That is excellent. Nice. Good work, John.
Thank you.
Bicycle Legs, over to you for your top 3.
Okay. Before I get into my top 3, I have to quickly say, Davey, when you were talking about the song Phenomenon, maybe it's because I'm wearing my Cookie Monster shirt today, but every time you said Phenomenon, I wanted to go dee 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 dee.
Dee, dee,
So,
dee.
yeah, exactly. So my number 3 is maybe going to surprise some people that it's not my number 1, because I am an unabashed, well-known Steven Wilson fanboy. The album is In Absentia by Porcupine Tree, and the song I picked is Blackest Eyes. This is a song that's very personal to me because I used to have a friend. I worked in the Australian Taxation Office, and his name was John Gavin. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But he and I used to swap CDs with each other. We'd say, hey, you need to listen to this, and hey, you need to listen to that. And one day he brought me this album here, In Absentia, and said, you need to listen to this. I think you'll really like it. And I did instantly. And Blackest Eyes is the first song on it. And it was the song that hooked me in straight away. So it starts off with these big, crunchy, heavy metal guitars, with these big riffs, and then it plays that. And then, but when you get into the actual song, it's more sort of like psychedelic alternative rock. Um, it's a really interesting song. It goes through a few different stages, all within the space of about 4.5 minutes. So, I mean, I could have picked anything off this album. This is one of my absolute favorite Porcupine Tree albums. And, it's where it all started for me. And I, as I say, have been an unapologetic Stephen Wilson fanboy ever since. But there are just a couple of songs I like just a little bit better from 2002. And my number two is a song that I just find utterly, utterly hypnotic. It is from an album that was considered a real critical comeback for this band. The album is Little Beethoven by Sparks, and the song I have picked is called My Baby's Taking Me Home. Now, a lot of the songs on this album are sort of loops of sort of 2 or 4 bar passages that just kind of get played over and over and over. And then they build a song on top of it. And then they just go through different changes of these little loops to make it really, really interesting. To rather than just making it repetitive, they make it hypnotic. And this song is the ultimate experience of that because apart from a spoken word part in the middle of the song, the only lyric in this song is My baby's taking me home. And it's just sung over and over and over again. But all these little variations on it. And it just, as I say, it becomes utterly, utterly hypnotic. And when you see them play it live, I'm going to be seeing them again later this month, which is going to be absolutely wonderful. I saw them in 2023 and they were great. So, yeah, my number two, My Baby's Taking Me Home by Sparks from the Little Beethoven album. But my number one is another huge prog epic. It is my absolute favorite song by this band, off my absolute favorite album by this band. It is the 31 and a bit minute song, The Truth Will Set You Free by the Flower Kings. It is the Flower Kings in absolute yes mode. They are, they're definitely channeling sort of classic 70s yes, but putting their own spin on it. And it's written by Roy Stolt. He sings some of it. Hasse Bruinson sings, no, not Hasse Bruinson. But they've got a number of different vocalists
It's
on this
From.
album.
Is his last name From?
Hasse Froberg, yeah,
Fromberg, that's
that's
it.
the one. And you know, this is a triple album on vinyl. It's a double album on CD. It is, you talk about long albums. This album is nearly 2.5 hours long. Um, and but the truth will set you free is this half an hour of just absolute prog genius. You've got brilliant bass playing from Jonas Reingold. You've got Roy Stolt playing some searing guitar on it. You've got Thomas Bowden doing what he does with his wonderful keyboards. Everything that you could ever want to hear. You know, if you've got a half an hour to spare and you want to know what the Flower Kings sound like, go and listen to The Truth Will Set You Free. And if you love that, go and dig deeply into their catalog because there's a lot of wonderful, beautiful 70s inspired prog. So there you go. My number one, The Truth Will Set You Free by the Flower Kings. My number two, Sparks, My Baby's Taking Me Home. And number three, Blackest Eyes by Porcupine Tree.
Sweet pumpkin pie. And the Flower Kings were on my larger list, but they did not make the cut, unfortunately. Personally, I would recommend, oh my, Stardust We Are from one of their a few records before. That's what I would say,
Hmm.
which is about 25 minutes or so. But your choice is good too. Alex, over to you for your top three, sir.
All right, and two of my top three have already been talked about, so that means you
Ooh.
guys had good picks. You just didn't have them in the right position. So I will correct that right now. And so at number three is The Rising by the Boss. Uh, and so just to add some facts and figures, first number one album since A Tunnel of Love, produced by Brendan O'Brien. First time we worked with him, which is a great pairing. Uh, First single off of the album, it gets to 52 on Billboard 100, gets to #1 on adult alternative airplay, whatever the hell that chart is supposed to be. Grammy for Best Rock Song, Grammy for Best Male Rock Performance. And so this my next two, when I said serious, all three dudes are serious, and you eloquently put it, John, what it's about. And we know how much this impacted people around the world, but certainly those even closer to what happened in the boss being in New Jersey, can look across and see. So I love the lyric towards the end, sky of memory and shadow, your burning wind fills my arms tonight, sky of longing and emptiness, sky of fullness, sky of blessed life. To me, this is one of his best vocal performances. You could feel what we were going through. The background vocals add a beautiful texture. As you mentioned, the guitar is fantastic on this. Uh, as our good friend Phil Ashton from Now Spinning Magazine says, right? Music can be the healer and the doctor, never more so than this song. So, what more can I say? Uh, Keeping this lighthearted thing going here. My number two um, song is from this artist's 67th studio album, the last while he was alive, and it's the fourth that he worked with Rick Rubin, and that is Johnny Cash. So this is American 4, The Man Comes Around, and the song is a cover tune, and I don't care that it's a cover tune because it's his song now, and that's Hurt.
Right.
So this continued this great relationship he had with Rick Rubin. This was the second single coming off of Personal Jesus. The cover tunes that were picked for all of these albums, unbelievable. Um, and so when this was first presented to Trent Reznor, he was flattered, but he had a little doubt because he thought, is it going to be gimmicky? And then he heard the song and he saw the video and he says, the song isn't mine anymore. Right. So I think my first show in the Contrarians I did was comeback albums, and I put Johnny Cash on that list, and I mentioned this song. And there were a couple of people in the comment section that sort of had some negative things to say because I don't think they really got what was going on with this song. And when I said, I think I made a statement, the greatest cover ever. Well, me saying that is one thing. Trent Reznor saying it's no longer his song, it's saying something else, right? So just as much as I like Bruce's singing on The Rising, on this song, you hear Johnny Cash knowing what is coming, and what is coming is the end. Uh, it and the video just drives that point home even more. So to me, it's just one of the most powerful songs that I have ever heard by any artist of any era, of any style. I do not get tired of hearing it. It's not a song that when it comes on, I'm skipping around the house. It's a song that when it comes on, I pause, I reflect, I realize what it's about, and that every second is precious, and you never know when it's going to end. So don't ever lose sight of that. And it almost was a #1, but the #1 is a song that I find even more powerful, and that is Like a Stone by Audioslave from their self-titled debut.
Wow.
Uh, Billboard #7, 3 times platinum, produced by Rick Rubin, right? One of my favorite producers. So the second single off of this, Billboard 100 gets to 31, alternative and mainstream charts #1, and it's gold, one of their biggest hits. Why do I like this song? You mentioned many of the great points, but the biggest point is Chris Cornell. I mean, I will say this: I'm not the bands he was in and the solo stuff. I like, they're not in any top list of mine. But if I were to rank my favorite singers, he would be up there just because the voice is unbelievable. And on this song, you hear, to me, some of his personal demons and just pain and angst. And, it's really kind of looking at the afterlife you would hope for, right? And he sings of a book full of death, reading how we'll die alone. And if we're good, we'll lay to rest anywhere we want to go. I mean, haunting, atmospheric, powerful, poignant, whatever you want to throw at it, uh, it's there. I don't know if any other singer could have conveyed the message of the song the way that he does and effortlessly. If you see the video, which he probably was lip syncing, but he's kind of just sitting in the chair, leg crossed, tapping his toe. But I saw him live, acoustic, do this song that way. He he wasn't up flexing, screaming. He sat there calmly and belted this song out. So uh, I'm glad I got to see him. I'm glad I got to see him in that context, and he played the song. And there was never any doubt when this topic got presented to me what my number one song was going to be. So that's my list.
Nice. Number one. You got me with that one. And I heard all those Johnny Cash records back in the day. Great choices. Okay, moving on to my top three. Daniel, if you could hold up the record called Snow by the band Spock's Beard. I'm picking a different song from this 2 CD concept record. The slightly over 5 minute song, Wind at My Back. And this to me is the best song on the record. Very powerful, great vocals, great harmony vocals, like you said for your song. It's just so melodic and that catchy chorus. In 2002, I think you said it, John. So many catchy choruses. And
Absolutely.
this song just hits me. Wind at My Back, Neil Morse. It's mid-tempo, it's melodic, and that chorus just sends me every time. That is my number three. Moving on to number two, a lovely lady I've mentioned on these shows before. This is from her record called Scarlet's Walk, Tori Amos, and I am going with the 7 minute, 17-second centerpiece to me from the album, and it's another 9/11 related song. That's what everyone thinks it's about, but it's really not. And this is called I Can't See New York. This is a conceptual album, a thematic album about the character which stands in for Tori, called Scarlet, about her trip across America. And the character of Scarlet is on a plane and she sees another plane going down and she's seeing it through the eyes of a woman on that plane. As the plane goes down, she can't see New York because of the tragedy. So it is 9/11 related, but this was actually written before 9/11. But it's a powerful song, great melody. It starts out as sort of a piano ballad, then the bass and the drums kick in for most of the song. They let up for a little. It's just Tori and the piano. They come back. I Can't See New York, one of my favorite Tori Amos songs. That's my number two. Daniel, if you want to hold up In Absentia by Porcupine Tree, we have the same choice here. My favorite song from an album full of great songs, Blackest Eyes. It has those heavy riffs that he got from working with Opeth around that time. The band got heavier on this album. This was their first, at least in the States, for a major label. It was on Lava Records, which was at the time a subsidiary of Atlantic Records. So they got to push. This should have made Porcupine Tree huge. It didn't, unfortunately. But out of all the great songs on this album, I have to go with Blackest Eyes. Just it's got those heavy riffs, and then when the acoustic guitars come in on the verses, and it's so dreamlike, and you get Richard Barbieri on the piano and the synths, great song. I think this is what the last album with Chris Maitland on drums.
No, this is the first one with Gavin Harrison.
Okay, the first one with Garen Hamm, even better. Two great drummers. Maybe Harrison gets the nod for being the better drummer. Drums on this song are great. I think it's about a serial killer, and a lot of Steven Wilson's songs are very dark and the underbelly of humanity. And the lyrics to the song are very heavy and great song. So my number one, Blackest Eyes by Porcupine Tree from the album In Absentia. So we had a couple of crossovers here, which is different from the last time. But I like that all our Dream Theater picks were different, 3 out of 4 of us. You want to do some honorable mentions, guys, before we say goodbye to
Yep.
everyone?
Sure.
John, why don't you take it first?
Okay, thank you. Okay, Audio Slave, but I have Cochise as one of my honorables. I have Wasp with the song Hollowed Ground, which is another song with 9/11 overtones, because Blackie Lawless wrote that song after he visited Ground Zero. I have Wallflowers, Everybody Out of the Water, which is a wonderful track by them. And I got Mudvayne with Not Fallen, which I think is a scorcher of a track. There you go.
Nice, Mudvayne. Daniel, over to you, Mr. Bicycle
All
Legs.
right, I have three quick honorable mentions. The title track from the first Car Mechanic album, Entering the Spectra, has a lot of the Flower Kings guys on it, including Roy Stolt on lead vocals. If you want to know what the Flower Kings sound like if they were led by Jonas Reingold instead of Roy Stolt, yeah, that's what you'll get here. But then some of the other songs on this album are sort of much more almost metally compared with the Flower Kings. So um, almost made my top list, but one of my favorite artists of all time, David Bowie. The song Everyone Says Hi, I think, is an absolutely great song, but there's a lot of really good songs on here as well. Couple of cover versions as well. It was his first album in 20 odd years working with Tony Visconti again, and that would get even better and better from there on. And then from not necessarily one of my favorite Peter Gabriel albums, but I still like this album quite a bit. The opening track Darkness, I think, is absolutely great. You know, it's atmospheric and then you get this real sort of jump scare loudness coming into it. So that's rather cool as well. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
Nice. And the Barry Williams show from that record almost made my list. It was on my larger list. Alex, over to you.
All right, so I got three too. Are we ready to get a little wacky, guys? Uh, we're gonna go with Darling Candy. So Darling Candy is Groovy Man from My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult and William Tucker from KMFDM and Ministry. So it's kind of that Thrill Kill Cult industrial, sleazy, grindy music. The song I'm gonna go with is Look at the Music, and the album is People Next Door. And we'll end things with two cover tunes. And if anybody knows watching me on any of the shows, Prince is my number one, bar none. Don't touch his music unless you're the high priestess of punk. And that is Patti Smith, Land, her greatest hits. And she does a very cool cover of When Doves Cry. And to close things out with one other cover, a tribute to Styx. And this was one of those deadline CDs that pulled all the great hair metal and heavy metal singers from the 80s to do songs. Too Much Time on My Hands is done by Jizzy Pearl of Love Hate and Rat and LA Guns. And now there's Appetite and Quiet Riot. I love his voice. I love his take on this song. So those are my three honorables.
Wow, I have that CD. I haven't seen that CD in my collection for years. Interesting. I have a few more than three honorable mentions, but I'll just rattle off the songs fast. I called her Baby Tori in 2002. Vanessa Carlton, another pure slice of pop perfection. 1,000 Miles, huge hit, was in a lot of commercials. From Canada, Our Lady Peace, Somewhere Out There. Melodic slice of rock. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, title track to his concept record, The Last DJ. Great song. The next song was the soundtrack or the title track to the TV show The OC, Phantom Planet with California. Very catchy pop song. Again, you might even call it power pop. Jason Schwartzman, the actor, was the drummer in that band. A band I haven't mentioned, Red Hot Chili Peppers from the
Hmm.
By the Way album, the Zephyr song. Very catchy, melodic song, not too crazy. Going back to hip hop, we used to play this guy's records in the store, Eminem from the Eminem Show. And I'm going with the song he mentions, the Eminem Show, in the actual song, Cleaning Out My Closet. Very catchy, but a little obscene, a little crazy, but that's Eminem for you. Another one, I got two left. The band OK Go. I am not going with the treadmill song. I'm going with a song called Get Over It, which has some really heavy guitars It's like power pop, but it has that post-grunge, heavy, crunchy guitars on it. Really good song. It's got a hooky synth line. It's from their self-titled debut album from 2002. Okay, Go with Get Over It. And my number 20, John, a record you mentioned, I'm going with a different song. I'm going with one of the hits from Coldplay, the song Clocks. Their first two albums I like, and then after that, they went downhill. We used to play a lot of Coldplay in the store, but only the first two records. So those are our picks, guys. Before we say goodbye, I want everyone to check out John on John the Music Nut. Check out Daniel on Bicycle Legs Talks Music. Alex has his own channel, Tainted Decibels. He's wearing the shirt. It's just his appearances on other channels, but eventually he's going to have original content on it. Like me, he's just so busy doing guest appearances, he doesn't have time to work on his own channel, unlike John and Bicycle Legs. So, what are your favorite songs from 2002? List them in the comments below. Please like this video. Please subscribe to Cretan Classics. Name your favorite, 5 favorites, 10 favorites, 15, whatever, in the comments below, and we'll comment on them. Remember, everyone, to rock out, prog on, and pogo. I'm Davey Cretan for Cretan Classics. Thanks a lot, and I will see you when my next video drops. Who knows when that'll be? Thanks, guys.
Thank
Take
you.
care.